Today we are going to capture the feel of a wintry wonderland in this reverse multi-layered canvas piece. However, it isn't just a reverse canvas. It is a double reverse canvas. This one-of-a-kind piece of art is something that will be perfect for displaying on your counters, a bookcase, a fireplace mantle, or for a gift. This stunning keepsake will be enjoyed year after year, and we're going to put it together step by step, you and I. Hello everyone, it's Maddie Azar with Spectrum Art Creations for Graphic 45 Brand Ambassador Design Team. Today we are going to be using the lovely Let It Snow collection. If you are not familiar with this collection, I am going to do a really quick flip through. I'll speed through this part and process, but it'll give you an idea as to how lovely this collection is. It's full of that wintry vibe. Yes, it does have a Santa Claus, but as you'll see in today's project, we are going to circumvent using that Santa Claus, and we're going to just use the wintry elements from this paper line, which is great. It's like having two pads in one. Yes, you can use a lot of the elements for Christmas card and Christmas projects, but afterwards you can still use a lot of it for winter-inspired themes and makes. With our collection at hand, we are ready to start. Don't forget, I'm going to break it down step by step, and you can always pause, rewind, or play the video at your own speed. In step 1, we're going to use the signature pages from the 8x8 pad to cut out the following elements. From the left hand side, we're going to cut one of the trees with the polar bear, and then just another one with just the tree by itself. On the right hand side, we're going to cut out two of those trees that are on the right side of the page. And here I'll bring them up a little bit closer so you can get a better look. Now mind you, you are going to see the hand of Santa Claus on some of these, but don't worry, we will take care of that later. Now we're going to switch to our 12x12 paper, and we're going to cut out the mama with the cubs from the polar bear prance page. And I'm going to start laying out the pieces so that we can see what we've got so far. Next, we are going to gather both of the Let It Snow signature pages from the 12x12, and we're going to cut out the following pieces. We will start with the owl and the branches on the left-hand side of the page. Followed by the polar bear with the tree, and this time we want the full polar bear including his feet. We also want his little bunny friend, and we want the fox and the rabbit. Now at first we're just going to do the fox with the rabbit, and then on the next one we're going to do the fox, the rabbit, and the tree. Now going back to our 8x8, we are going to need one little bird from the Holiday Happiness page, and it's going to be the bird that is looking towards the right, this one right here at towards the bottom. Later on we are going to add one more bird, but we'll get to that later. Now these are the pieces that we have thus far. Always remember, you can pause. You can come back to the video after you've done fussy cutting, and then we will continue from here. Also from the ephemera assortment pack, we're going to need some snowflakes and a couple of flourishes. Of course, you can always opt to add more snowflakes if you like. 3, 5 would be a good number. I ended up, I think, with 3 at the end, but I will show you some of the options here. In step 2, we are going to prep our canvases. Now remember, this is going to be a double reverse canvas. So you're going to need 2 identical size canvases. Mine are 8 by 10. Of course, you might opt out for a different size, but mine are 8 by 10. We'll start by removing the canvas from one of the frames. And we don't want to remove all of the canvas from the entire frame, just enough so that we have a clear window and nothing is peeking or showing on the other side. So just kind of go around your wooden frame on one side, as I am doing here, and remove the excess. Our next goal is to create wraps for our canvases. We need to hide all of the staples. We need to hide anywhere that the fabric is not even. We are even going to create a wrap that is going to wrap around both of our canvases on all sides to create one solid looking frame that is going to encompass, of course, both of our canvases. And again, we'll work through it together. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create L-shaped pieces to cover our corners. You're not going to hear measurements from me because there are many different types of canvases, and depending on which one you get, your measurements will vary, right? Even if you get a bigger or a smaller canvas, that will play as well. The idea is the same no matter what canvases you're using, and it doesn't have to be perfect. These pieces that I'm creating are not going to be perfect because we're going to be covering a lot of this up later, okay? But the concept is the same. But very simply put, our end goal, what we're trying to achieve, is the illusion that the 2 canvases that we have are actually one solid frame. So that's all that we are doing. We are basically creating wraps and pieces to tie the 2 frames together as one piece, with the exception of the bottom of our canvas. So we want to wrap around everything all the way around as if they are going to be one cohesive piece, right? Just one solid frame, except for the bottom. At the bottom, we are going to need a little slit where we're going to slide in our backdrop panel. So the best thing to do is to watch this and then go back, rewind it, and work through it together with me. Because once you see it, as I mentioned, it's going to make sense. You'll see what we're going for. You might notice that this bottom wrap is not long enough to wrap around both of the frames. We're trying to get rid of that seam, right? That gap that's going to be between the 2 frames. However, this bottom wrap is shorter, and you'll see that once I start gluing the next 3 sides, that the other ones wrap all the way around to the back of the second canvas, where this one that I just glued on the bottom does not. See how this one has like much longer pieces? It's actually got 4 folds. So it comes and it wraps from the inside of the front frame all the way around, and then it reaches all the way to the back of the second frame. Again, once you play this once and you kind of see what we're doing, it'll all click, it'll make sense, and you'll say, oh, I get it, I see what she's doing. Some things are just so much harder to explain than to actually show, and this is one of those concepts where I think I over explain it, and I make it sound so difficult, and maybe even you'll be a little discouraged as to, okay, I don't know what is happening here. But I promise you, once you actually play it, at least this piece of it, this part of the video through, you'll just be like, okay, that was so simple, really. All she did was take a piece of paper and wrap it around both canvases. It's as simple as that. So let's just watch this together, and then you'll see how it just makes total sense and it's super simple. And it's as simple as that. You can see that we now have the pieces of paper that'll wrap and cover all the way to the back of both canvases. It doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to be covering a lot of that up, except for the bottom. See, we have one that is shorter, and we need that to be shorter in order to slide our background, and we'll do that later. I'm going to glue down any kind of imperfections, like that little bit of canvas on that corner was kind of crinkled, so I'm just fixing that up. And then we're going to add glue all the way around the perimeter, the outside perimeter of our canvas, but only on 3 sides, okay? The bottom, we are not going to add any glue to that. And again, we're focusing on the outside perimeter. You don't want to glue down the entire width of that frame. And the easiest way to make sure that your frames are squared is simply to use a flat surface like your table, an even flat surface, and simply tap them down so that they are squared on all sides. And now that both of our frames have been glued together, it is time to bring our wraps and glue them and adhere them all the way to the back of the second frame. So now we have them fully wrapped all the way around. Not only is this going to give the illusion or help us to give the illusion of one solid wide frame instead of 2 frames that have been glued together, but it also helps your frames, your canvases, to become solid, which is really nice. It gives them sturdiness as well. Now here you can see that we have 3 sides that have been completely wrapped around, and the bottom is not, right? This is going to be our short end that we talked about, where we are not going to wrap all the way around because we do want to see that seam. Okay, on the other sides we don't. We don't want to see that it is 2 frames that have been glued together, but on the bottom we're going to need that slit. Next, just grab some scrap pieces of paper once again, and we're going to glue them on the sides of our canvas, again creating that illusion that it is one solid, wide, thick, very thick frame instead of 2 canvases that have been glued together. We are going to repeat the process of adhering those plates to the outside edges of the canvas on all 3 sides, only 3. Once again, we do not want to cover the bottom yet. We will get to that later, but for now we want to cover the 3 sides with just plain white cardstock or scrap piece of paper that you might have, but do not cover the bottom. So as you can see, it is starting to look more and more like one solid wide frame as opposed to two separate canvases. And that was the look that we were going for. I told you it was super simple. In step 3, we are going to spackle our seams. Just like you would spackle a wall, wherever you have joints, right? Wall joints, you want to spackle all of those adjoining seams by using your texture paste. Now, you can go for a super smooth, perfect look, or you could also feel free to add a little bit of flair by giving it some texture. In step 4, we're going to be adding even more texture, and I'm going to be using 2 different stencils. This is a great way not only to add interest to your piece, in addition to that, you can hide a world of sins. So if you had any uneven areas or maybe where you had adjoining seams, this is a great way to hide any kind of imperfection. So break out your fun ice or snow or texture pastes or modeling pastes and just have fun. Now don't forget that you want to cover not only the front but also all 3 of the left, right, and top side. In step 5, we're going to add color. Now I'm going to be using magicals, but you can use your acrylics or any other paints that you have in your stash. You will notice that one of the things that I did was I focused in coming in from darkest from the center and then going lighter towards the outside of the canvas on the sides, like the left, the right, and the top. So I went from dark to light to create almost like a faded look. Here is your chance to just get messy and have fun. Do not worry about the inside of the canvas or even the back because we are going to be covering all of that up later. So just have fun. In step 6, we are going to be creating our back cover. As I mentioned, we had tons of fun playing with our color and made a big old mess, and now it is time to cover it up. So using my Let It Snow signature page, I'm going to be cutting out a piece that will actually, of course, fit the back of my canvas. Of course, this will be depending on what the canvas size that you are using, and all I'm going to be doing is adhering that to the back. With our back all done, it is now time to bring in the fairy lights. Now, it depends on which fairy lights you are using. Your switch might be on the left-hand side, it might be on the right-hand side, top or bottom. It all depends on what brand or type of fairy lights you're using. But what we want to do is to make sure that we make it as easy as possible for it to be turned on and off. Also, we want to make sure that we are not going on the bottom like too low because we are going to be adding claw feet later on to our project. We also want to make sure that we're not going too close to the side or top so that it actually shows. So we want to kind of hide the mechanism behind the canvas. Then we're going to poke a hole and we're going to feed the lights through. Now, make sure that you test them before you actually insert them, right? Because you don't want to work on all of this without testing the lights and then realize, uh-oh, faulty or battery is dead. Once that is set and you are happy with it, we are going to adhere the switch to the back of our canvas. In step 8, we are going to work on the backdrop panel. Now, using the 12 by 12 patterns and solids, I'm going to choose the blue snowflake page. It doesn't have any text on it, so it's really pretty. It just has all of these snowflakes in different sizes. We're going to cut that slightly smaller than our frame. It is better to go big and then trim as needed. This is going to slide in between the two canvases. Remember how we left that slit on the bottom of the canvases? That's where it's going to get sandwiched in between those two. In my case, again, remember, I started with a canvas that was 8 by 10. Mine, just to give you an idea, is 7 by 8 and 5/8. Again, if I needed to trim some more, then all I have to do is trim a little bit. Now, with that cut and done, and we know that that's what we're going to be working with, we are going to move on to the light positioning. So in step 9, we are going to use washi tape in order to secure our lights to the top half of the canvas. To do that, I'm going to also use masking tape and heavy glue. I don't want this to later on in the future slide or fall, or for the washi tape to lose its adhesive and then your lights kind of start to droop, because of course it's going to be standing up, gravity will take play. So I'm just going to make sure that it is extremely well secured for the future. Now we are only going to be taping them to the top half of the canvas because remember, we are creating a night sky, so we need stars. So the stars are going to be at the top. Some of them I am gluing down. Some of them I am not adhering, so they're more free-flowing. So we have, again, that depth perspective as well. Some of the stars are going to look like they're brighter and closer. Some of them will look like they're further away. And with our stars all in place, it is time for step number 10. We are going to adhere our backdrop panel. To do that, we are going to, first of all, of course, check it, make sure everything works fine. It slides perfectly. The lights look great. Remember, we're trying to commit, and you can see how pretty those stars look, but we're going to do a little bit more to those stars as well. So hang tight for that. Once we are happy, it slides in nice and smoothly. We are going to add a little bit of glue and secure that into place. And with our backdrop panel in place, we have our beautiful starry sky. Now we are ready to seal it. So we're going to add our decorative bottom piece in step number 11. Using a leftover piece from the blue snowflake 12 by 12 sheet that we used for the backdrop panel, I have simply cut out a cover for the bottom. This is just for decorative purposes, just to finish off our project on all four sides. And there we have it. All of our sides are finished, the back, the front, the sides, the bottom. It now looks like one cohesive frame instead of two. In step 12, we're going to work on our starry sky. So remember I mentioned that we were going to do a little bit more. That's what we're going to do. Using our craft pick, we're going to poke random holes throughout our canvas, right? Our backdrop. Now, we don't want to make it look uniform. We want some of that element of that night sky where it's kind of random. Some lights twinkle a little bit brighter than others. We want to get that kind of effect. So I've turned off the lights in the room and I turned my fairy lights back on, which helps me with placement. It actually lets us see where those lights, some of them are further, some of them are closer, and I have poked a few random holes on the paper backdrop to create a little bit more realistic of a night sky. And that brings us to step number 13, where we're going to be adding other embellishments. So take a look around your stash, use what you have. I happen to have this chipboard street lamp post, which I'm going to be using because it kind of reminds me of Narnia. It gives me that Narnia effect, which I don't know if you've all seen that movie. You probably have. It is a great movie, great book, of course, but I love that aspect of the movie. So I figure, that's kind of cool. So I'm going to be using some of my paints and just creating some effects so that it looks like it's been left out and weathered, with some dry brushing and also some snow effects. Of course, this step is totally optional, but you might be surprised if you look around your stash. You might have some, maybe some little Christmas trees that you can create a 3D winter scene and add a little bit more depth to your project. You might have some chipboard. You might have a million things, I'm sure, in your stash, especially as a lot of the Christmas items come into clearance. You might even have, some nice icicles and stuff that might be on sale or on clearance at your stores now. So take a look around and use what you have in your stash. With the street lamppost looking all wintry, we're going to move on to the bottom of our canvas. We are trying to create a floor now for our wintry scene. So use your snow, your ice, your texture paste, your modeling pastes to add texture to the bottom of your canvas. And we are almost done. Only 2 more steps left to complete our project. In step number 14, we are going to build our scene. Bringing back all of our die cut elements and ephemera, we're first going to do a snapshot of how it's going to look. So I am simply going to place all the pieces to show you what we're going to lay them out first, and then we're going to start adhering them down. Some pieces we're going to just use adhesive and just glue them straight onto either the canvas or the backdrop itself. Some others we are going to use 3D dimensional foam dots. Of course, that is optional, but I highly recommend it because once again, it gives us that perception of depth. Now, if you remember that polar bear without the legs, the reason why he had no legs and we weren't interested in his legs is because he's actually not going to be a polar bear. He's actually going to become a little snowbank. So we're going to use his back and his rump to basically create like a little snow pile bank. So here we have a really good idea as to what it is going to look like. The positioning that we're going to be using, the placement. These are for the ones that we cut ourselves. We still have our ephemera pieces from the die cut pack, like the snowflakes and the wind swirls, which we're going to be using as well. Also the bunny, I think we need to find that and put him right next to the polar bear. But we also have one bird, right? Keep in mind that I mentioned to you that later on we're going to be adding a second bird, and we'll cover that here in just a couple of minutes. But for now, we have a temporary layout. We can see that all the proportions work really well together. We have smaller items, larger items, depending on how far or how close they are, and that allows us to start gluing. We'll start by gluing the owl on the top left-hand corner right here. Next, we're going to add some dimensional dots to the polar bear and tree, and we are going to create a raised level, so he actually looks like he's even closer to us than just the canvas. Once our bear is ready, we are going to glue him right here on the bottom left-hand corner. Next, we're going to work with the smaller tree, and we're going to glue that directly onto the canvas right here. That's going to get tucked away behind the larger tree with the polar bear. After that, we're going to grab the other tree and we're going to tuck that directly behind the polar bear onto the backdrop itself right there. So we want to tuck it so that it seems like it's peeking out as well. Now, if you remember, we had talked about the fact in the beginning that the trees are going to have a little bit of the Santa Claus showing, at least on 2 of those trees, that being right here. And I told you, don't worry, we're going to fix that. To do that, we're going to bring in our little bird, and he is actually going to cover those fingertips. And don't worry, we are going to come back and cover the other fingertips as well on the smaller tree that is in the backdrop. With our birdie in place, our left-hand side of the canvas is pretty much done. So now it is time to move on to the right-hand side. Okay, so we know our fox and bunny are going to be in the front. We know our fake snowbank or snow hill is going to be our polar bear. And then we've got our tree that's going to be tucked somewhere back there as well. So we'll kind of put them in place there to see how they look. Once we are happy, it is time to start adhering. And of course, once again, using our dimensional dots to give it some depth. Now, before we glue the fake snow hill / polar bear in place, we want to make sure that the other tree is going to be able to hide the polar bear face. So make sure you get your positioning straight, and then we are ready to start gluing down. For a greater effect of dimension, you want to have different depths. So to do that, on this tree, I've decided to do a double layer of the 3D foam dimensional tape. And now our corner tree is double layered, and it is covering our polar bear face. Next, we're going to bring back the larger tree with the fox and the bunny, and we're going to glue that to the bottom right hand side. In this case, we're going to glue the first layer directly. Remember, we have 2 layers. The first one is going to get glued directly onto the canvas, and on the next one we're going to be using, once again, our dimensional 3D foam tape. And now we're going to find the other set of the Arctic Fox and Bunny, and we're going to add dimensional dots and then adhere that directly on top of the bottom set of the Fox and Bunny. With our fox and bunny in place, we're going to bring back the mama bear with the cubs, and we are going to glue that onto our snow bank or hill. Next, we're going to find our lonely bunny, and we're going to add some dimensional foam dots, 3D dots to him as well. And this one we're going to double layer as well, just like we did with the other right hand side corner tree where we double layered the 3D dimensional foam. We're going to do that for him as well, so he looks even more up close than the polar bear. With all of our Arctic friends in place, it is now time to bring in the ephemera die cuts. We're going to add the upswirls as well as the snowflakes. And let's not forget any of the other embellishments that we have gathered as well. And now we have one final element, and that is to cover that other hand. So from your 8x8, I have gathered up this lovely little bird right here that has the word love on it. And we're going to place him right here to cover that other set of fingers on that tree. And you can see that he's actually facing left, which is kind of cute because it almost looks like one's looking right, one's looking left, one is up closer, one is in the far back. And we've added to the illusion of things being up closer or things being further away by also using the different sizes of the trees and the different sizes of the birds. And now for our final step, adding hardware. We're going to be using these amazing metal handle sets from Graphic 45, as well as the antique brass claw feet. Both of these come with 4 pieces, so you have enough for, a few projects. But it's going to be the perfect, elegant touch for our reverse double canvas frame. We will start with our top handle. We'll start by centering that, and then I'm going to be using E6000 to adhere it. Again, it's metal. It is great, amazing quality metal, so it's nice and sturdy and heavy. Not too heavy, but it is, obviously quality. So you do want to use a nice strong adhesive to ensure that this is going to be there for years to come. With the handle in place, we are going to add our antique brass claw feet. We're going to need 3 for this project. 2 are going to be used in the front, obviously as support, and then there's going to be a 3rd one that is going to be centered and placed in the back in order to allow the frame to stand. And of course, we want to clean out any additional adhesive that might have oozed out as we were applying our claw feet. So I'm just going to use my pick in order to be able to clean up any excess. Now to finish the top, since that is going to be seen, although that handle is not going to be functional, we're not going to be pulling on it, it is decorative and we can see it. So I've added some liquid pearls to the top on either side just to make it look like it's got screws or brads in place. And just like that, we are done in 15 easy steps. What a wonderful keepsake for you to share, to decorate with, or to gift. We hope you guys have enjoyed it. Thank you so much for joining us today here in the art studio at Spectrum Art Creations. Thank you to Graphic 45 for the gorgeous paper and inspiration. And we do hope that you will try one. Give it a try, give it a whirl. Let us know what you think in the comments as usual. And as always, thank you for joining us and thank you for your support. We'll see you guys all real soon. Bye now.